Pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome once again to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Today's guest menu looks like this. We're anticipating talking with attorney Channing Warner, attorney and former Southern University football player. He's scheduled to join us along with Coach Van Pettaway and Charles Edmond. Of course, if you want to get involved, there are several ways you can get involved with the show. You can send me a comment or a question on the Carlos Brown Show Facebook app or Messenger, or you can send me an email at the Carlos Brown Show at gmail.com. A lot to talk about on today's show. So that's the guest menu. We'll update it as need be if there are any changes. What's trending on today's show? The Carlos Brown Show. Alabama State welcomes Mo Williams, head men's basketball coach at Alabama State. Of course, Coach Williams, and we'll call him that now, Coach Williams, played at the University of Alabama, a Jackson, Mississippi native. Also went on to have a career in the NBA. Now, the head men's basketball coach at Alabama State. I'm sure we will get a little bit more into this decision by Alabama State. Of course, we kind of talked about it last week, that we were hearing some things about Mo Williams, a finalist. Well, it's official. And, of course, I'll get your take on Alabama State's decision. Wish Coach Williams the best of luck now as the head men's basketball coach at Alabama State. And, by the way, got to ask Coach Van Pettaway his thoughts on the decision by Alabama State. Other stories that are trending. Florida Tech, a Division II football program, decides to shut down their football program because of COVID-19. And, boy, you kind of hate to hear of that, to see it. But could it be that we'll see more of these type of decisions? This COVID-19, this pandemic, it is just disrupting all aspects of living. So Florida Tech has decided to end their football program, and they pretty much, basically, spokesman said it's because of the uncertainty of COVID-19. Then last but not least, I guess I was the last to know, but woke up this morning, thank God I was able to wake up, and I get a text message and some information. Prairie View and the football program ineligible for postseason competition for 2020-2021. To say that I am disappointed? Yes. Shocked? Yeah, I guess I'm shocked. But I'm sure Dr. Prince probably saw it coming down the line. But already this morning, text messages asking what happened. Who's going to be safe from all this? Will there be some fallout behind this? Inquiring minds want to know. So that's what's trending on this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show. Let me say good morning to Michael Prince. I call him Brother Prince. I call him Dr. Prince. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, man. How are you this morning?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Can't complain. Doesn't do any good if you complain.
Yeah.
Once again,
it's rough,
you're
bro.
up and you woke up this morning.
Amen to that. Amen to that. You once again, one of them old hymns. Woke up this morning with my mind stayed on Jesus. You remember that one?
Yeah, I do.
All right. I'm waiting on you to break out with one of these one day when I give you these leads. If you know them, you need to start singing, Deacon.
Well, sometimes
I feel like
You
a
need
motherless
to.
child. Oh, I thought you.
Yes,
Oh,
no. Sometimes you need to have a song in your heart. Sometimes you need a moment of silence. Sometimes you need a moment of meditation.
ooh, Lord.
And this time, you may go through all three of them
Yes,
within
Lord.
a hour, within a day.
Oh my. Oh
But
my.
it's interesting. Some of the trending stories. Mo Williams, Alabama State, new men's basketball coach. Got some feedback on that, but I'm just going to say I wish him and Alabama State the best in this decision, and it'll be play ball soon.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. I know. He got a 2-year deal, but you know what was interesting to me? I'm like, did he do it for free? Because he said I'll do it for free.
Well, that I would think that's a negotiating ploy.
Well, I'm just saying.
But now, would you do it for free? I mean, I'll give you a discount. And I've seen in the past in negotiations that, hey, if I underbid, I come in with the lowest. Hey, I'll do this job for 120,000 Ks. But then, what about my budget? Recruiting, all of that goes into the equation. But I will say this: I doubt if he does it for free.
Well,
But what do I know?
hey, you never can tell. Let's be honest. When you're used to getting NBA checks, any other job feels like for free anyway. So it'd be interesting. No, but I do wish him well, just as you said. It's going to be a challenging transition. A lot of guys that, get to the NBA, in particular with not a deep coaching background, usually, regardless of what you may think of it, is still Division I basketball. And usually people graduate to that level, and 2 years assisting, and then after that you got the head job in a Division I conference. It's very interesting, intriguing, and going to have a hopeful and watchful eye on the overall process.
Well, I think the coaches in the conference will welcome the challenge. Name recognition immediately, in my humble opinion, on this hire. Now, I asked Coach Pettaway a point-blank question last week, and Coach Pettaway gave me a point-blank answer. Being in the NBA and playing in the NBA, and what he said, a couple of years as with Coach Goddard, yeah, does that guarantee that person will be a good coach, or will they have a winning program?
No,
and he said no.
Yeah,
no. He says no. There's no guarantee. Only taxes and death.
There you go.
And then you have a choice with taxes. You don't have to pay that.
Taxes, if you don't pay your taxes, they'll kill you.
Well, there'll be repercussions.
Yes, sir. You feel like
but you have that right not to pay them.
Yeah. You can. Don't go ahead. Don't pay.
But there's no negotiation.
No, sir. Not at all. Not at all.
So it's going to be very interesting. I'm sure it's going to be competitive, and we can think of other instances where coaches have come in this conference and they had a professional pedigree coached on the NFL level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with this press conference, if it's me, and let's see, after he has his virtual press conference, I would only promise two things: work hard and work hard.
There you go.
And I would not say, hey, I'm coming in and we're going to win it all in our first year, or we're going to get second or third. We just going to come in, work hard, and try to improve. That's the other thing I'll add on.
I was going to say, the buzzword is we're going to try to change the culture. We like saying that a lot now. We're going to try to change the culture. and just work hard. And that's what we're going to do.
Mm.
But on the opposite end of that, I'm thinking it's going to even motivate the coaches that are already here a little bit harder, because depend on who you ask, this could almost appear as a slight move of disrespect where you can just come in and be on our level after 2 years in the game and other guys have to work hard to get to where they are. And it might be some sense in this as preferential treatment. And as a result of that, let's grind real hard and show this dude that it's serious here too. So that's going to be some of that too.
Well, it possibly could be, but I know if I'm coaching in this league, and of course I'm not. You know, I would have to bring down my emotional level for one, but I would just come out and take care of business, try to improve every year, put my athletes in position to graduate. And by the way, congratulations to all of students and athletes across this country that paid the price, stood the test of time, and they've graduated.
Yes, sir.
Albeit now you face a pandemic as well as far as employment and getting out there. But best of luck. Best of luck to all you. Best wishes. But I'm just going to come in and try to be the best coach that I can be, put my student athletes in a position to be successful. And every year I can see improvement. And then, so a couple of championships, that would be nice as well.
Oh, yeah.
In other words, have a winning program. And year in and year out, that would be the goal. That would be the goal.
That's the goal, or should be the goal, I should say, at any program in the nation. Any program. I want to improve what I've inherited. I want to win as much as I can, and somewhere in between there, try to get as many championships as possible.
And consistency.
Oh, yes, sir.
Be consistent, and that's the thing that you can look at. What else? Florida Tech shuts down the football program.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. And basically, I'm going to pull it up. Basically said it's because of COVID-19.
Yeah,
the uncertainty.
They shut it down, which leads me to believe there were already some sketchy financial concerns prior to the COVID, and instead of continuing to bleed, they just said, go ahead and kill it. There's no need of trying. And that's coming to a reality check. And a lot of us, unfortunately, in these positions of leadership, we don't like to address the elephant in the room. We try to fake it until we make it. Whoever came up with that was irresponsible, in my opinion. If you don't have it, trying to keep up with the Joneses will have you ended up in a deeper hole than what you're already in. So face the music. If you got to step back for a minute, go back to the drawing board, regroup some things, shut it down, and let's come back with a better plan. Bowling Green shut down their baseball program this week. And Bowling Green, out of the MAC division, I know it's baseball compared to football, but they had winning success, 4 championships, 2 NCAA tournament appearances within the last 10 years, and they shut it down to cut back $2 million on their budget. Something had to go.
Well, this pandemic, 36 million people total applying for unemployment?
Mm-hmm.
That's serious. That is serious. So even if you're able to have games, know your demographics. Right. Will they have the discretionary dollars to be able to come if they're going to allow fans in the stands? Man, this whole thing is, and yet each week I have a discussion with people via the text message or whatever, that are still, and I understand their point, money rules the day. You're in a capitalistic society. They still believe there's going to be some kind of sports. What Major League Baseball is talking about having an abbreviated schedule. They still believe that they're going to have some type of sports. But you know what? As I was talking to the person, I understand that, but at the end of the day, you can judge how you will. You can govern your life accordingly. And I just see a lot of unknowns about all of this. We've talked about it the last couple of weeks, testing, and I want to talk today about the liability in putting on events and sporting events as it reflects to sporting events overall, but in particular at our schools. Potential liability exposure exists for sports organizations. Does general liability insurance provide coverage for sports organizations? This is deep. And I was able to pull out this information and still going over it. That's what I want to discuss with Channing Warner. He's an attorney, state of Louisiana, and a former Southern University football player. But back to Florida Tech. The Florida Tech football program, which was founded in 2011 and competes in the Gulf South Conference, will be eliminating effective immediately the football program. The team fields 120 players, and students on scholarships will have their scholarships awards honored for up to 4 years. Additional answers to questions related to this decision may be found here. Then here's a quote. The unprecedented uncertainty created by COVID-19 makes these moves prudent but less painful, McCray told the campus community in his letter. We must do what is necessary to preserve resources critical to our educational mission and ensure our ability to successfully serve students when face-to-face instruction resumes this fall. I appreciate each of you, and I am humbled by your hard work and sacrifice. Florida Tech was one of just 2 Division II football programs in the entire talent-rich state of Florida, leaving just rival West Florida as a lone Division II program in the Sunshine State. And at this point, it said there had not been an official announcement from the school. The program also recently dropped their women's golf program shortly before that. So that is a decision that they came to reach, and it is hopefully not something that we'll see pretty steadily. But I'm sure you're going to see some universities come to that decision, and as the fall semester gets closer, wow, there's going to still have to be some decisions made. But some of you still believe that it's going to get done. They're going to have sporting events, and I told them, let me know how it goes if those persons are going to go.
So you'll be from afar, right?
Well, just to be honest, I'm in one of those underlying issues. I'm one of those people.
Yes, sir.
And as much as I love sports, going to sporting events, as much as I love covering them, that weighs heavily on my decision.
Right. Absolutely.
But profits, I understand. Profits over safety.
Understand.
And once again, who gets affected disproportionately more?
African Americans.
African Americans, Latino Americans, Hispanic Americans. Very interesting. Let me do this. Let me take a time out. Just got a message from Channing Warner, so I want to check that out quickly, and I'll come back and update you on the rest of the show. Simply put, you're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
As a dad, you'll probably spend years teaching your son how to hit a baseball, how to throw a tight spiral and hit a receiver, how to spring off a diving board and hit the water, how to hit a 1-wood and a 9-iron, how to hit the bullseye, how to hit the strike zone, hit a jump shot, hit the open man, hit the hockey net, and maybe the most challenging of all, how to hit the books. But the question is this: how much time will you spend teaching him what not to hit? Teach your son early and often that all violence against women is wrong. For tips on what to say, visit endabuse.org. Brought to you by the Family Violence Prevention Fund, the Waite Institute for Violence Prevention, the Ad Council, and this station.
It's the Open Mic Tele-Network line. Dial 720-721-1558, and instantly at your fingertips, you'll have the latest local news, weather, and sports. Need a word of encouragement? Dial 720-721-1558. The Open Mic Tele-Network line features weekly prayer, verse of the week, and local ministries at your fingertips. Everything you need on demand. Dial 720-721-1558. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No internet? No problem. No Wi-Fi? No problem. No app? No problem. All you need to do is dial 720-721-1558 to listen now.
Hello, this is Alonzo Hardy Jr., the president of the SWAC Alumni Association. The SWAC Alumni Association is an organization founded on December 10, 1999, at the Sheraton Hotel in Birmingham, Alabama. Its mission is to serve as a rallying ground for individuals who have made the Southwestern Athletic Conference the illustrious conference that it is today. Its membership is open to former student athletes who played in the conference in any sport, as well as to coaches, athletic administrators, staff members, game officials, and fans. Annually, the association holds a Legends Awards and Roast Banquet or luncheon where it honors individuals with Lifetime Achievement Awards, a Chuck Prophet Wagon Master Award, and occasionally a Distinguished Service Award. Proceeds from that event help to finance degree completion scholarships for student athletes who have exhausted their playing eligibility at SWAC universities, but who may still need an extra semester or two to complete their college studies. For more information on the SWAC Alumni Association or to get information on becoming a member, you can send correspondence to SWAC Alumni Association, 875 Miller Creek Lane, Newport News, Virginia, 23602. The email address is swakalumniassociation@yahoo.com.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Speaker.com. Want to let you know that I'm going to have to reschedule Attorney Channing Warner, for next week. Had an emergency call, and it's just not going to work out. And to be honest with you, it's probably better to have him on next week where he's stationary, and we can have a good connection and what have you. So that's the way it goes sometimes. It's not the first time it's happened in my long radio career, but I like to be honest and let everyone know what's going on. I don't want to have an interview where the timing is just not right and the climate's not right for it. So good judgment says, and instincts, to just go ahead and schedule it for next week when there's a better climbing forward, and from a technical standpoint, it's better. So just wanted to let everyone know about that. Still, a lot of information to talk about as far as this COVID-19 and its impact on college sports and some of the things, and we'll still be able to do it, like I said, next week. Potential liability exposure exists for sports organizations. Does general liability insurance provide coverage for sports organizations that are sued for failure to cancel or mitigate risk? And then there's different levels of transmission risk factors for different sports organizations. And as I was reading through that, they also they have some information on how to mitigate liability risk by common sense risk management practices and risk warning, social distancing. You've already heard about that. Temperature check, personal protective equipment, PPE, spacing of player equipment. Player equipment should be spaced accordingly to prevent close contact. Limit team shared equipment. Now, we're just talking about practice before even the games. You spread out scheduling of practices and games. The restrooms should limit occupancy to one person at a time. Wow. You have to spread out scheduling of practice and games. Hygiene, hand washing, touching face, laundering, healthy practices, cleaning and disinfecting, self-quarantine. Players, coaches, and parents or spectators with any symptoms should not attend any training sessions or competitions. Did you think about water bottles? Water and sports drinks should no longer be provided by sports facilities or sports organizations. Athletes and coaches should bring their own water bottle to all team activities to help to reduce transmission risk. No handshakes, celebration. That's just some of the adjustments that will have to be made. And it gets deeper into actual policies and the litigation and can you sue? And talking to Channing Warner a week ago, there is liability. But now, of course, just like in any litigation, you will have to prove. Let's say if you wanted to, an athlete, and they post everything and they practice without some of the things I just read, and they still got ill. And let's say at the extreme situation, that person, he or she dies. Or let's say he or she doesn't die, but wants to sue. They will have to prove, did they catch it there on campus, in the meeting rooms and practice, or did they catch it somewhere else? So it'll be back and forth. But I'll stop right there because when we have the attorney on, he can break it down better. But just something kind of to think about. There's a whole lot to think about to sports being put together and playing in the fall, or even if you delay it. Then, of course, there's the economic piece, scholarships. Florida Tech still will be honoring scholarships. Well, with that being said, I'm getting some text messages, and I'll I'll just read some. Derek says some salaries in the SWAC wonder where Mo will fall in the category. Lindsey Hunter makes $75,000 K's at Valley. Texas Southern paying $250,000. He's like, jeez. And that's back to Mo Williams. I'm sure we'll eventually find out the contract, the length, and what he's being paid. But there's a wide range of salaries with basketball coaches, I would think. Well, I say wide range, but if Lindsey Hunter is making $75,000 and Johnny Jones is making about $250,000, does somebody fall in the middle of that? Interesting. Can those who can afford to pay more, they will. Those who can't, their resources are limited. They have to do the best that they can. And then finally, we didn't talk about the last part, trending. Dr. Prince, Prairie View A&M, and their football program, ineligible for postseason for 2020-2021. I've had some people already to ask me, how does this affect Coach Dooley? This on a 4-year rolling period. Coach Dooley is going into what year, Dr. Prince? Year 3?
Going into year number 3, yes, sir. Year number 3.
I've had people to ask me already, the recruiting, bringing in junior college players and transfers. Is hindsight 2020? Is that policy? Will that policy prove to be bad?
Well, it's just like anything else in life. Overindulgence of anything can't be good for you, and you have to have a perfect blend, a perfect balance. Building a program which is investing in cultivating freshmen, filling in immediate needs with some JUCO transfers. But if you're going all in one way, trying to prove a point, and there's a two-edged sword when you talk about that, you have the pressure of winning right now, and so you'll get that more experienced fella. And then you have to add in some slight inexperience. And then some will try to say, well, the prior regime is just as partly responsible as the current regime. But when you cut this pie up, everybody gets a bite, okay? You have, during that tenure, you had the return of a athletic director who in their first tour of duty had some challenges with APR. In fact, we had an exclusive interview when he was appointed for the second time, and we brought up that very thing with the challenges you had with APR. Do you see that being a potential problem this second go around? And of course, they didn't think it would be, but apparently it is, because it started in that second wave. Then you had the current administrative team that's there together, inexperienced coach. So everybody's going to be partly responsible, because whether or not there is advisement on maybe you need to pull back on this many JUCO transfers or this many questionable guys. Because see, what the NCAA does, they penalize you for retention as well. And we all know in this me first millennial thought of thinking, if it doesn't go my way, I got this portal I can go to, I'm out of here. Or worst case scenario, I drop out of school, adios, and chunk you the deuce. Now I'm holding that dirty laundry with no soap to go clean it up. So you have those deals. Now, when the dust settles, as I mentioned, everyone is going to have to be accountable for this. And this is some of the things that, at least on my show, that I try to address. And some people, they will take it for whatever it's worth. But when we're talking about being accountable, we talk about the pride, we talk about the heritage, we talk about the legacy. And this is part of that legacy. So regardless of what we've done, at this point, people are going to look at the right now. Janet Jackson, what have you done for me lately? Right now, this is where we are. The biggest program on the campus dealing with this particular issue. Now, we got to face the music. We can't point fingers at whose fault it was. We are here right now. What are we doing to address this, to get out of this, and what are we going to do to prevent this from ever happening again? Which goes back to when we try to keep up with the Joneses, okay, in this case, jumping up to the D1 programs, and because we want the money, and it's been proven it's a moving target. It used to be a 910 APR ranking. Then it went to 920 APR ranking. Now it's at 950. Hell, next is going to be at 1,000, and they're going to raise the bar up to 12,000 or 1,200 that you can get as a maximum score. So we have to be careful. The old saying says, be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. Okay. And then when you add to the fact that Prairie View is a unique place, and it's unique by design, 2.8. Let's be honest. Okay. It's going to be a very thorough, exhausting search to find 2.8 freshman transfer students that's going to give you that edge you need to be successful on the field as well as in the classroom. I get it. I buy into it 1,000+% that you are a student first. And when we bring these kids in, they need to understand that. And sometimes we need to cross off some kids who could probably help us in one way, but then hurt us in 3 other ways. So it's a catch-22, and it's the art of judging character. It's the art of integrity. Because when the dust settles, yes, we hold programs and we do this, and we got a lot of different layers that make this stuff go through, but the student athlete is going to have to be accountable and responsible for their action. The coach is going to have to be accountable and responsible for their action. Administrator is going to have to be accountable and responsible for their actions. Appliance is going to have to be responsible. Tutors and everybody else that make up this whole IE team.
I understand. Everybody has a part in it.
Yes, sir.
A student athlete, you have to be accountable. You got to get it done. Managing your time. And we've seen this happen within the conference. It's not the first time it's happened. And so disappointing, yeah, I would think most people are. And even as a competitor at another university within the conference, you always want each institution to be at its best as far as competition. But in life, yeah, you're going to be held accountable. So with that being said, the new director of athletics will have that on the plate as well.
Yeah, and just like I've said, any new position that's being filled, it already is vacant for a reason. There are some internal problems. There are some external problems. The bottom line is there are problems. And whomever it is that's going to be the quote-unquote chosen one, they need to be able to come in with their own game plan to be able to right the wrong, with a new set of eyes on which direction is this thing headed compared to which direction does it need to be heading. And let that person come in and do what is necessary to get the ship back on course. And if you're going to keep on putting a Band-Aid over a situation that needs stitches or surgery, then is peeing in the wind. I'm sorry for using that terminology, but that's what it is. So this is an opportune time to strike the iron while it's hot and do what's going to be best for the overall success of the university.
Well, we'll monitor the situation.
No doubt.
And
no doubt.
Disappointing to say the least. But when it's said and done, accountability.
Yes. Yes.
It's accountability. Boy, thanks, Derek, for this information. I'm looking at some of the midmajormadness.com. Coaches get incentives, bonuses. Remember last week I went off on extending contracts, rolling over contracts?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I believe I said I'm more into incentives and bonuses, more so than rolling over contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And I used the example of Coach Spivery at Southern University. Outstanding first season. It would have been nice to, and I'm sure he had incentives and bonus in there, to give him that financially. Hindsight is 2020. Then extending that contract, rolling those years over. That's what Southern did. And by the grace of, you know what, that was the only good year, that first year. It went down here rapidly. So then you got to roll with that. Because unless you have the wherewithal or the ability to pay those extended years, when you show him the door, then you're stuck. And that's what happened.
Well, it goes back to let's be real.
Incentives over rolling contracts. Over.
Well,
that's what I'm for.
And I'm saying this. By the way, I didn't know if you knew this, but Coach Byron Smith, congratulations, just got a contract extension. And
I just saw his name.
Yeah, and you're going to flip out over this, but it's a 5-year extension. Okay. He is incentive loaded, but he got a 5-year extension. But the point that I was making, and I hope that those that are listening hear me loud and clear. We've got to stop trying to operate like folks who have money, because the money we're talking about is change to FBS. FBS are feverishly going right now trying to figure out how they can get these games in because so much money. Yes, we would lose money, but the money is not going to hurt us as hard. Now, I know y'all are hearing something. Yeah, we don't have that much, but we're used to not working with that much. And to be honest with you, we are gate driven when it comes to football, to all of our sports. And if you're trying to put on a football game that costs you anywhere between $20,000 and $30,000 per game for a game day experience, regardless if people come to the game or not, you're going to spend more money to put that game on, and you go in the hole deeper than if you just waited until things were clear. I know that sounds heartbreaking, it sounds pessimistic, but it's a reality. And when we understand that we are operating on a whole different level, and stop trying to peek across the fence on what they're doing, because they don't care about anyone else but themselves. They don't even care about their own sister schools on the FBS platform. So what makes you think they care about us?
Well, and they're going to roll out those players, those student athletes, because they've got to have that money, and at what cost?
Well, Brother Carlos, I did a show this week called No More Pimp Games. Okay? And I'm going to say this right now. This is what, May 16th, 2020? SCC, Big 12, all of them can talk big and bad because they're trying to keep that money flowing. But they will force the issue, and they're going to put profit over health. but let the rest of us try to follow that and see where we end up. Because we don't even have money deep enough. Right now, there was a report I tweeted out. Texas A&M, $109 million in the hole. That's why they pushing like mad for football. Prairie View just got a $31 million windfall from the CARES Act. So who you think gonna be pushing football when I make $196 million from a football season? You doggone Skippy. You doggone Skippy. Heck yeah, we're going to open up June 1st and we're going to do 3 phases. Man, you can have 103 phases. It ain't going to happen. And I hate to go here, but it is what it is until God releases his thumb. And they can acknowledge, they can do and say whatever they want to say. And you can send them folks out there in waves and droves, just like they did in Mississippi. They opened up Mississippi. Now the thing then spiked up even more. You going out there if you want to with your bad self. I'm going to sit right here. Look at
the state you're in.
Yeah, man, look here. Governor
it's spiking up. I mean, I'm in Louisiana from day one before they even start keeping statistics on this. Man, it was a hotbed. So govern yourselves accordingly. That's what I'm saying.
If you really want football to kick off on time, I highly recommend to the powers that are listening that you invest in a PS4, PS3, or PS2, whichever one you can get the college football game on, and y'all play those games that way and stream them, because that's about the real football you're going to get until this thing has been cleared up scientifically. All this hypothesis and lip service, that's all it is lip service. And they get people emotionally lathered up and say, man, we're going to get it. And then they let you down. Well, and if you really look at it, it's like dangling that carrot in front of the horse. That horse will walk all day not realizing that the carrot won't get no closer to him, but it's a motivator to keep him going. And that's all they've been doing is dangling a carrot. That's all they've been doing. We're not making enough money on the FCS level to try and match what FBS is doing. We get excited about $1 million reward coming from the Celebration Bowl. And if the truth be told, and I want you to hear me real good, Carlos, you done got me fired up today. Look, I'm talking about conference-wide. I know for a fact that there are enough SWAC lovers, SWAC supporters, and I'm sticking strictly with SWAC. There are enough SWAC supporters across this nation that 3,000 SWAC believers, true stone hardcore supporters, could give $300 each, and that would give us $900,000, $100,000 short of what we're getting excited about a jacked up deal by letting ESPN stick it to us.
Well, I know now with people don't have jobs, furloughed, it's serious.
It's very
serious situation.
It's very serious. And
so all I would say is just sit back, govern yourselves accordingly. It's still a lot of unknowns. And if they open up a football game next month, or say the first week in September, would you honestly feel comfortable going with all the things that have to be put in place to pull this off? That's the answer there. You govern yourself accordingly. You want to go out there? You tell me how it is. Because I only can control myself and my family. But on that note, take a quick time out. 10:49 Central Standard Time. I want to talk to Coach Pettaway. I want to pivot kind of away from the COVID-19. The pandemic. but I'm sure we'll come back to it in the weeks to come. Go take a time out. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
I present to you 3 of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth Algebra 2, weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you 1 chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it. Me too. I'm in. Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now. You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
One voice. It can get the point across, but it only carries so far. Add a voice. It's richer, louder, but that has limits too. Add a third voice. It's even more powerful. Add another, and another, and many, many more, and we are stronger than ever. That's the power of a community coalition. They help community groups, faith groups, civic organizations, PTAs, employers, and many others in your community organize their resources and focus them where they're needed most, like fighting to keep kids away from drugs. Ask a group that you belong to if they should belong to a community coalition. It's easy to get involved. Visit helpyourcommunity.org and they'll tell you exactly how your group can help. That's helpyourcommunity.org, because you get more when we get together. Brought to you by the Office of National Drug Control Policy and the Ad Council.
The birth of legends are storied in this conference. We must never forget our rich history. We now turn our gaze to the future. The new legends will emerge. New heroes to arise. The Southwestern Athletic Conference. Be our history.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. My first guest of today's show is the Carlos Brown Show's basketball analyst, Coach Van Pettaway. Coach, good morning to you.
Good morning, Carlos. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you here, Coach. Still being safe, of course, doing all the things necessary. I'm sure you are doing that, you and yours.
Right. Yes, we are. We're staying safe. We're staying in as much as possible. And we give all our present blessings to the man upstairs.
He's called by many names, but I simply like to say the Creator.
There you go. There you go.
And speaking of creating, last week, a little buzz, we talked about the potential finalists. Let's just be honest. It was one name that we were very interested in, Mo Williams. And now, the head men's basketball coach at Alabama State, they're going to have a virtual press conference, I think, coming up this week. But you can look at his resume. Played in the NBA, won a championship with the Cleveland Cavaliers, a couple of years of assistant coaching at Cal State Northridge, now head men's basketball coach at Alabama State. Share your thoughts on it, Coach.
Well, I think that in this environment with the pandemic, Alabama State did what they had to do. They pulled the trigger on somebody who they feel like can take their program to the next level. But me personally, I have to say that now he's got some big shoes to fill now, because Coach Jackson, you know, he's brought some SWAC championships in there. I think he's brought more than any other coach in the history of that program. And so I think Coach Williams has some big shoes to fill, but I do think that he's going to hit the ground running. He wanted to be a head coach because, you know, he let it be known that he really wanted that job and to get out and to get his own, to be able to put his stamp on his own program. I think that was a big deal for him because, you know, we've been hearing all kind of rumors that, you know, he was going to make sure that money was not going to be the issue in terms of his hire. He wanted to just have an opportunity to get out there and show everybody that he was ready to be a head coach. And I think if you look at it now, him being hired at Alabama State has already paid dividends for them. They have signed one of the free agents that's out there, as we call it now because of the portal. Trace Young, 6'8", 6'9", high flyer, has agreed to become a part of that program. And prior to Coach Williams being hired, Alabama State wasn't even on his radar. But I think because of the fact that he has that NBA pedigree, I think that has a lot to do with Trace's decision to come, because prior to that, the young man did say, I want to go to a HBCU, and he had A&T, Howard, Norfolk, and then in the SWAC, he was considering Valley, Prairie View, and Jackson State. But he chose Alabama State, and I would want to say that I think that's because of Coach Williams and his background. So that is paying off already. Now he's got to fill his staff out. They got to hit the ground running. This is going to be a very difficult time for them because you can't do the normal things like meet with the players and work them out over the summer, that kind of thing. So they're going to be playing catch up from day one. But I think Alabama State is looking for him to come in there and move their program forward, and I know that's what he wants to do. So it's going to be interesting, and we'll just have to wait and see. And I wish him the best of luck at Alabama State, except for the 2 days he plays against the Bulldogs. Now, in those days, you know, he can break a leg, he can break a wrist, he can do whatever he needs to do, but he does not need to win those games. But he can win the rest of them.
Yeah. Oh, boy, I thought I saw a text message from Coach Williams saying just bring him. Oh,
yeah.
No, that can't be true. Maybe I'm hallucinating. Okay.
But, yeah, see, this is the Hatfields and the McCoys. That's not going to change now.
Well, I wish them the same, much success. I made a comment about name recognition. Definitely, that fits that. Right. You know, former NBA player. I talked to a former director of athletics in this conference. When I say talk, text message. And they were surprised by the hire, but they said name recognition was key. But this person also believed that he's going to have to go out and prove himself at Alabama State. Athletic director for Jennifer Lynn Williams. Here's a quote, Coach. She said, "We are excited about the direction of our men's basketball program as we move forward into this new era. Mo Williams checked the boxes that we were looking for as the next head coach at Alabama State's men's basketball, and his passion and leadership speaks volumes." And, of course, he played collegiately at the University of Alabama, a Jackson, Mississippi native. Tell you what, a lot of Jackson native influences in this conference, huh?
Yep.
Your commissioner, with Tamika Reed, the job that she doing as the women's basketball coach at Jackson State. And boy, by the way, did you see another 6'5" transfer in the post?
Right. Yep.
But all that to say, Coach, I think it's going to be very competitive, and I think everyone will accept the challenge, and the key is going to be Mo Williams building the program. And I guess I wonder, we'll see what type of style that he will try to play. Do you have any kind of inkling of possibly what he will do?
Well, I think, you know, he liked to score the basketball, so I'm assuming that he's going to keep with that philosophy. He's going to play up tempo and try to put some points on the board. That's what he was known for when he was getting things done at Alabama, and that's the way they tried to play. They attempted to play up tempo, and then of course he coached under Godfrey again down out in California. So I'm thinking that it'll be a cross between him being up tempo and trying to control the tempo of the game, and because that's the way he played the game. And I think that with his background already being in the South, being in Mississippi, he should have enough contacts down there that should help him on the recruiting end of the thing, because that's going to be the biggest thing. Now you can have all the X's and O's you can get or have in your playbook, but you better have you some Jimmys and Joes that can do all that execution for you. So he's got to go out there. He's got to go out there and recruit, and hopefully with his contacts that he had in the state of Mississippi, with his NBA connections, he should be able to have people in his corner that will help him to be successful. And hopefully, if he can get the players, that could translate into some victories for Alabama State. I know that's what they all are hoping for. But at the same time, these veteran coaches in the SWAC, they licking their chops because they're saying we got a new guy on the block. He has not been through the SWAC yet, so the SWAC is a different animal now when it's time when it comes to coaching and playing in the SWAC, playing against these coaches. So I think they'll be ready for him.
We're visiting with Coach Van Pettaway, the Coles Brown Show's basketball analyst. Couple things, Coach. Is there? I'm gonna have to put it this way. We know about competition between the players within their conference. How about the coaches? Is there that kind of competitive edge that coaches have, although they're not out there actually on the court, but they are the CEOs?
Man, you better believe. Used to be. I'm here to tell you now. It used to be. When you're talking about Coach Stribling, you think Coach Stribling won. Not only did he want to win the fashion war, he wanted to win the game. And when he came to play, he came to play back in the day. And so there was always competition between the coaches. I remember when Tommy Green and I used to go up against each other. There's always competition. And I love going up against Coach Whitney. I love going against Coach Whitney. I just hated playing him down on the reservation. Play him anywhere but the reservation. And it's fun for me. So, there's always competition. You go to the meetings. That's about the only time that we can all be civil, where we can sit down and do something else and trying to beat each other across the head. You get to meet people. You get to know about their families and stuff like that. But when that's over with and they throw that ball up, it's time to go at it. And for the most part, we did that. Now, when you look around the SWAC now, I think the longest tenure coach is probably going to be George down at Pine Bluff. So they got this new breed coming in. So I'm assuming now that these guys have that same competitive drive that we had. Because, see, I was the young boy on the block. I mean, when I came in with Coach Stribling, they had a veteran staff. You had a veteran staff out at Texas Southern with Coach Moreland, and then Andy Scoggins down at Jackson State. So I was the new kid on the block. And then, of course, I just told you about Coach Wigton. So they were all indoctrinating me to the SWAC. And they wanted to make sure that they teamed up so that they wouldn't let this new kid come in and beat them. We were very successful our first few years in the SWAC. And see, at the first, we weren't even eligible because of us moving up and going into the SWAC. But we had very competitive teams. We never finished lower than second, or third rather. And it was fun. It was fun going up against those guys. So I'm hoping that this new breed, that they're doing the exact same thing, and that's going to be on George Ivory to make sure that those guys are together, and they're together as coaches to make sure that the SWAC basketball continues to excel and be the great product that it's been over the years.
Wow, Lafayette's dribbling.
Yep.
I tell you, I almost thought I saw aluminum foil colored suit. But I'm sure it was silver. But boy, you talking about matching hat socks. Shoot, boy, he took pride in not only his coaching but his dress, and to me was very down to earth.
Yes, he was. He's a great guy. I love Coach Stribling, and one of the funniest things that I've ever experienced as a coach. Back in the day, GQ and a couple other people used to do this fashion walk for coaches. Mm-hmm. And when Coach Joe beat Coach Stribling for best dressed coach in the SWAC, man, he went crazy. I saw him at the Final Four, one of the first. He couldn't even say hello to Pet. He was like, "Man, did you see that? Do you really believe they gave Ben the best dressed coach over me? Man, what?" And I'm like, Coach, how you doing first? Yeah. But that was so funny, but he was serious about it. You know, he took pride in the way he looked, because, you know, when he used to sit around, he said, "Hey, we're professionals and we need to act like it. We need to dress like it." And that's what he believed in. And he's one of the great. He doesn't get enough credit for what he did, I think, at Mississippi Valley.
Yeah, well,
because,
I had the pleasure of interviewing him once that I can think of, and like I said, down to earth guy.
Yep.
And took pride in coaching.
Yep.
And his dress.
Yep.
And he really did. Visiting with Coach Van Pettaway here. Coach, back to Mo Williams. How important is it going to be when he unveils his staff? Because I think that is going to be another crucial component, the staff and people he has around him.
Right. I think it's going to be very important, especially in this time, in this day and time, because you can't do the normal recruiting. So he's got to find somebody who has some experience to help him with this big. I think he's only been on the coaching side of it, college basketball for 2 years. So I think it's going to be very important that he gets someone with some experience to come in there to help him to navigate through this first year. You know, even if he's only going to have that person for a year. But he's got to have some experience to come with, because there are too many rules. There are too many things that you have to know as a staff and as a head coach to get through this first year. So it's going to be very crucial for him to put together a good staff.
It'll be interesting. Mo Williams, head men's basketball coach at Alabama State. Can't wait to see him at the F.G. Clark Activity Center for the first time. Hopefully, when basketball season comes around, we'll have a clearer picture, maybe not, about the season.
Well, see, I think basketball now, because we can start so late, I think we have a better chance of playing basketball on the collegiate level than we do football right now. Because number one, I think and this is going back to the virus effect, football programs should be doing a lot of things right now to prepare for August competition. Basketball, we would be ending. This is the end of May, so you're about to end up your second semester academically, and then the kids will have a break, and then they will go home and be ready to come back for summer school. So I think with the way this thing is going, you have a better chance, because in some states and some places, conferences, they're saying no people on campus. Like California came out and said, they're not going to bring their, area's going to be virtual education for this fall. Well, that's going to hurt a lot of people, because if some of the other people do that, if you go virtual, then that means they're not going to allow them athletes on campus.
Yeah, that's correct.
So the more time that you spend, you got a better chance of getting your basketball season off than you would, in my opinion, than football. But football is the one that's driving all these programs. They're going to need that money, so they're going to be trying to figure out ways to get it going. And I know here in the state of Alabama, the president of Auburn University has already said they're going to play football in the fall. And so with him being in the SEC, I'm quite sure he didn't make that statement without conferring with some of the other presidents in the league. So if the SEC is saying that they're going to play, some of the other conferences are going to look at trying to do that. But I think for the smallest programs, the smaller schools, we're going to have some issues and problems. You already got FCS schools dropping sports. They're dropping sports because of the pandemic. You got a conference up on the East Coast now that's already said they're not going to play. They're not going to have a tournament for baseball, softball. They're not going to have volleyball. They're already canceling sports tournaments, and in some cases, some schools are cutting some of the sports programs. Period, and that's going to have a trickle down effect. That's going to have a trickle down effect on our HBCUs. And I hope we don't have any that have to close because of this. And I hope we don't drop athletic programs because of this virus. But when it comes to money, we probably need that money more than they do to survive. Some of those places have reserves. We don't.
Yeah. Uncertainty and unknown.
Yep.
You're at a situation right now. Visiting with Coach Van Pettaway, the Coles Brown Show's basketball analyst. Well, we're going to discuss a contract with you, Coach Pettaway. I hope you do somewhat like what we hear about Coach Williams. Give us a great discount. I don't know. People are still wondering about that contract, but I don't think he'll do it for free.
No, I hope not. I hope he doesn't do it for free.
Opinion,
right, because he would be starting something that would affect guys who've been out there trying to become head coaches. They can't afford to do it for free. He's a guy that can do it either for free or at a reduced cost because he's got all that NBA money he can fall back on.
Yeah,
but everybody doesn't have that.
Yeah, but if you've invested and spent it wisely.
Right. If that's assuming that you did that, yes.
Yeah. And speaking of that, you remember last week, I wanted to get your thoughts, and of course you're going to come from a coaching perspective, and I'm coming from a non-coach's perspective. You remember the example I brought up about a guy you know very well? I guess you had a good record against a rival, Coach Spivey.
Oh yes. Yeah. I know Rob. Yep.
Yeah. and he came to Southern University, and if my memory serves me, had a very good first year. You remember seeing him play against Duke? Yeah.
Right.
And so I'm looking at information now about coaches and how they have a lot of incentives in their contract, bonuses. If they meet X, Y, Z, they get this, that, and this. Then, in Southern's case, they gave him an extension. They just came back and offered to extend the years on his contract. And if I remember, it was because they couldn't really give him, the incentives and bonus. So my question is, and the history of this was, of course, that first year was his best year, if you get my drift.
Right.
And it went downhill after that. And to make a move to remove him, it cost them more because they had extended his contract after the first year. How is there a benefit to the bonus and incentives, or would you prefer that, or if you were advising a young coach, put that in or the extension to add on in years to a contract, particularly after you've had a very good first season? I'm just interested to see what your thoughts on that.
Well, see, mine personally, I've always been on the side of getting as many years as possible because now that gives me, my family and I, we got security. And see, in today's time, prior to the pandemic hitting, you look at what the Power 5 coaches were getting in their contracts. First of all, they get millions a year. Then they got their contract set up So if you fire me before the end of my contract, I still get a chance to walk away with millions. So who wouldn't want to do that? Hire me, and then please fire me, so I can sit down, so I can sit at home with my millions that you're going to give me. Because see, they can afford to do that. But now on our level, I think that's why a lot of these athletic directors and presidents are leaning towards shorter terms and maybe more incentives, because they cannot. Now, if Southern had to pay Rob off, they would be one of the only. There are not very many HBCUs that pay off coaches, because they cannot afford to pay one and then pay a present coach. So I think that's why they wait until the end of the contract to get rid of coaches. They just don't renew you.
But I've heard that term before too, Coach.
Right. They just don't.
We're going to move in another direction.
Correct. Because now they don't owe you anything. You don't owe them anything. And see, that's one of the things that I think that has hurt a lot of the HBCU coaches. We don't get the buyouts. When our contract is up, that's it. And so the agents and people like that are working for these coaches now, they got to look at that. They got to put some safeguards in there for the coach when it does not work out well for him in terms of being at that institution. They got to look down the road, and I think that has to be a big part of it, because back in the day, see, I didn't have an agent when I first started. I never had an agent. I did my own negotiation. Well, the other reason why I did is because my brother at the time was an attorney. He's a judge now, but he was an attorney, so I just let him look over the legal aspects of what the school was offering, and we go from there. But the length of contracts, I think now, are still based on this mentality of we can't go too far out there, because if it goes sideways, we don't need to be obligated monetarily wise. But one of the things that they have started doing to protect themselves, if you commit a violation, that cuts off all the funds that we owe you. In other words, as long as you're doing everything above board, we're obligated. But once you cross that line, you get us on probation or you do something that's illegal, that voids the contract. Now that helps the schools, because that keeps the coach above board and doing things the right way. Yeah. All right. One of the clauses that some of the coaches have in their contracts that I like, academic clauses. If you graduate a percentage of players, then you get a bonus. Now, I had that in my contract up until 2 presidents ago. They took it out. Presidents say, well, it's your job to it's part of your job to be graduating these kids anyway. We're not going to pay you for them graduating. So they took that clause out. Yep. All right. They got in the contracts. Some contracts have clauses. If you win a certain percentage of games, you get a bonus. Some contracts have attendance clauses. If your style of play and what you do increases our attendance, you get a bonus. Then, of course, you got the natural ones. If you win a conference championship, bonus. If you win the SWAC tournament, bonus. If you go to the NC2A tournament, bonus. See, those are all natural, but they're not that big. Like when Coach K and those guys go to the tournament, they get almost $1 million. We're lucky to get 50,000 if we accomplish those. Yeah. So there's a big difference in the money, and it's all on how you put those contracts together to whether or not the incentives are going to work for you. Yeah. You know, keeping your team off of probation, I think is hard enough now where it does, to me, it deserves a bonus. All right. If I remain at your institution for 4 consecutive years, I think I deserve a bonus. So yeah, you can put incentives, but here's the problem. The year what if I reach most of these incentives in the same year? Are you going to have the money to pay me? See, so you got to look at it both ways.
That's a good question. It would be interesting to see how many of those incentives, like if you had 6 or 7, if I'm understanding, if you had 6 or 7 incentives and they reach them all in the same year one, then you better pay.
Right.
You better find a way. Find a way, even if you got to take money from board members going to the Bayou class. You got to find a way to pay for it.
But now, Carlos, this is the way I tried to show our school at A&M. I said, now anything dealing with winning, that means that I'm going to the playoffs. Use that money to pay my incentives.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then not just me now, my staff too. See, in my contract, my staff receive bonuses also. But the way it was, everything was written up. The major money came from winning, and the winning would have meant that we're in the playoffs, or we won the SWAC tournament, or we won the SWAC conference. We're going to be getting money anyway. So now you can pay me for that. But now my academic, my graduation success rate, all of that, that's money you got to find. That's money that you have to find. And then, like I said, your problem is going to come if I reach all of these in the same year. That's a lot of money out there.
Yeah, well, but you need to pay it.
Yep, right. Well, if you can pay that, then just spread it out over years. Instead of giving me 2 years, give me 4 years. See, that's the way I always approached it. And then I did have a rollover. See, my rollover was, my brother put that thing where 2 years out, I could get a rollover. So in other words, you had to know now that in 2 years, you're not going to give me another contract. Because if not, I automatically got another year added.
Right.
So it's the language and it's how you put the contracts together that will help the coaches. But because I am a coach, I believe that the institutions, especially the HBCUs, we've got to look out for our coaches more, because we're not getting the big bucks. Now, if you were paying me $1 million a year, I don't need that security. But if I'm getting the minimum salary, give me longevity. Give me longevity, because I got to look out for my family, just like you look out for yours. The presidents are making nice salaries. They get 4. You don't see a president getting a 1 year or 2 year contract.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about that after the show. No. You know, I also have some ideas about Supreme Court justices.
Oh, well, yeah.
They shouldn't have a lifetime appointment, but
but you know what? See, it's going to be two sides to it. You know, there are some people saying that the coaches should not be getting the long-term contracts. But to me, you got to look out for our families. And if you're not going to give me my 4 years, then your incentives, my bonuses, they got to be up to par, so that I can put aside money in case I'm not here. But if you're already paying me low, I can't put aside money because I need that money to live off of.
And I understand that. That's why it's called negotiation. And I think, tell me if I'm wrong, we could meet somewhere. We could meet somewhere in the middle. Both sides can be happy, because one side doesn't feel like, well, they're getting over on me.
Right.
And because we're talking about this, watch this, Coach Featherweight. Jack says Southern paid off Michael Grant, Tommy Green, and Rob Spiver in recent years.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I forgot about
they paid them. I thought their contract ended. Michael Grant basically came out and said he was interested in another job, and they had a board member who is a very prominent attorney said, "Oh, really?" And next thing you know, he pretty much was gone. I had another comment that was funny. Wow. Well, see, like I said, Southern would be one are very few that pays people off. The other programs, they let you go to the end of the contract and don't renew you because that's the cheapest way out. Now, in the meantime, if that coach is doing such a terrible job, yeah, your program is suffering. Yeah, you're setting your program back when you do it that way. But how can you afford to pay one coach and his staff and then bring in another coach and staff? That's tough. Now, to me, that
means you have more.
That's a lot of money coming up at the last minute now.
Well, that also tells me if you able to get that money, then you had it all along.
Right.
If you're able to do that. I had another one. I want to paraphrase. A listener says Jackson State has been doing that for a decade, paying off. Oh, wow. Pretty much talking about football, probably.
Wow, so they're paying people off. Well, see, that means that they got money, they got big boosters and stuff. But now just imagine, if you didn't have to pay those coaches off, you could be using that money for your programs.
Mm-hmm.
For your current program. That to me, that is tough, because as a head coach, you can only do so much. And to have a successful program, it takes more than just a basketball coach. I've told you all before, the academic side of the puzzle. See, if you don't keep them kids eligible, you're not gonna win. Okay, if you're not helping them to grow physically and spiritually, you're not gonna win. You gotta have a training table. You gotta have a weight program. On the academic side, I need tutors. I need academic advisors. Those are things that I really can't control. But in order for me to be successful, I need those. I need a great training staff. I need trainers that know how to get athletes back on the court.
Mm-hmm.
Without my influence now, they know what needs to be done. I don't believe in the coaches that rush the kids back. Let the trainers do their job. But I need certified people. I need knowledgeable people that can help get the athletes back where they need to be. And before I even get to the trainer, give me that weight and strength coach. In the off season, he can help me prevent a lot of those injuries that will come up on the court. I won't need the trainer as much. That player won't miss as many games. But as a head coach, you can't really control that, but you need it to be successful.
Yeah, and it's all part of the program, so different aspects.
Right.
A strength and conditioning coach that puts together a great off-season program.
Right.
And we say off-season, but to me, in all sports now, it's a year-round.
Correct.
Because there's conditioning during the season. People don't think about that.
Right, right.
You work up to a point, and it's not like it used to be. Well, as Magic Johnson said, we used to come to camp to get into shape. Now you have to come day one
in shape, in some form of shape, so you do not get hurt going through the different programs. And then I'll take it a step further. It's going to go back to your admissions office also. See, at A&M, they were a little bit different. You didn't see a lot of JUCO players on our roster. So see, what they do in admission is very important. We had to build most of our programs were built with high school players because it was very tough to get a JUCO to be eligible at Alabama A&M. There were plenty of them we recruited, and they ended up at other schools in the SWAC beating our brains out because we couldn't get them in school.
Mm-hmm.
Because, the admission requirements at some schools are different. I remember a time when A&M, academically, our kids, their level was higher than what the NC2A had. We went above that, and we as coaches, we fought that for years. We're like, wait a minute, why are we doing ourselves? Why are we trying to be the Duke of the South? That's not us. That's not our mission. That's not what Alabama A&M was built for. We were built to help the African American students, not to hold them back. You hold them back by giving them higher academic requirements than is required by the NC2A. Why are we doing that? But at the same time, you say you want a winning program. Look at all the kids we don't even get a chance to sample because of these academic requirements. So your institution's mission has a lot to do with the success of your program too now.
Yeah. And again,
so all of that has
team together.
Yeah. Yep.
And speaking of team, if I can transition quickly, and once again, as always, appreciate your time. The last dance, they'll have the final two, but many things to talk about and discuss. But I thought it was telling. And me and my best friend had a text message discussion. You saw the part where he got emotional and he said break. He was saying that's the way I've always played. That's me, whether it's practice, pickup games. That is my mentality. And if you didn't like that, and he brought along people who didn't necessarily buy into it, you were brought along for the ride. And he got emotional.
That's
and
what
I thought about you, Coach. I said,
right.
Now, this is the guy I saw on the sideline that was. I'm gonna be honest with you, Coach. You terrified me at some point. Just watching because you were so intense on that court side. But then I saw you get all over players, all the when you come to the empty court. But then I saw something when that timeout was over. You pat that young man on the back, on his butt. And I said, he really cares. Now, from the outside looking in, very tough, but also fair. All I have to say this about Michael Jordan. Some people say, well, wow, I couldn't have been his teammate. But he wanted to win. And it was winning priority 1, 2, and 3 at all costs. But your thoughts on that?
He led by example, though. When they showed them working out, who was always leading? Whether it was lifting weights or running sprints, who was at the front?
He did everything he asked other people to do. He did.
Right.
He led by example is what you're saying.
Correct. He did it by example, and what he, as a coach, you love players like that. And then as a coach, that's the way I was. I didn't believe in excuses. Let's get the work done. If we get the work in, we don't have to make excuses. Michael did that. He showed people that hey, no, that's not acceptable. You're not going hard. You're not playing hard. You gotta, hey man, you gotta catch the ball when I pass it to you. What he did, he told you what needed to happen. Some people just didn't want to hear that. They don't like for you to do that. See, that's just like today. They don't want you to tell the athlete really that he has to work hard and he's not getting the job done. They just want you to say, well, okay, Jimmy, you just come along. We'll wait for you. No, I can't wait for you because you may cost me my job. Jimmy, we're going to get it done now.
Yeah.
And if we lose, we're going to lose my way, not your way. Because it's my job that's on the line, not yours. So that Michael was a very passionate person. I think some of the guys, when he was doing it, they didn't understand. I think more and more now, as time has gone on, they appreciate Michael pushing their buttons because they got championships. And that's why we're talking about The Last Dance, because they achieved greatness. If Michael had not been Michael, they would not have achieved those things. And all this documentary is showing is that the work that he put in and what he had to endure to win those championships and for him to be the great player that he was. Because he pushed himself, he pushed everybody that was around him. And he did not do it. Off the court, he was a different person than what's on the court. That's like me. For those games, I'm a different person. As soon as that buzzer goes off, I'm a different person. That's the way Michael was. You turn it on for that. In my sense, it was 40 minutes. For him, it was 48 minutes. Those 48 minutes, I don't have any friends. I don't have any excuses. All the excuses and the friendship, that's going to start after this 48 minutes. But for right now, it's time to go to work, and we're going to get it. And that's what he did. I like that. And I love to have players. I've coached kids like that would not allow their teammates to accept mediocrity.
So in other words, Coach, if they did a special or had cameras in your practices, they would see just what Coach Pettaway is talking about. And
right.
It may not be hard. It may not be for everybody.
Right. Yep. Everybody can't play for me because I'm not accepting excuses.
Mm-hmm.
I want results. I'm gonna give you the pattern. I'm gonna show you how I want it done. And for the most part, they did it. Because they did it, we won over 450 something games doing it that way.
It works.
So they did it. The players did it. They accepted. They bought in. The players of my staff.
And see, I think what I'm looking at responses from a lot of people saying, Coach Pettaway, you're spot on. Spot on about everything you're saying. I mean, I have several people have stated that. I had no problem, as far as watching the special and Michael Jordan and how he accomplished things, and again, he did everything he was telling his teammates how to do. He led by example.
Right.
Yeah. And see, and that's the difference. And literally a coach out on the court.
Right.
Last but not least, is there one person you could think of who you've coached over your career that was like a true coach on the court, that you could tell them something in practice and it carried over to actual game day?
I've got 4 of them: Willie Hayes, Craig Lottie, Desmond Cambridge, Obi Trotter. Those were my leaders. Those were my generals. Those were my point guards. They got it from me. They related to their teammates, and they got it done. All those guys won conference championships because they led their players. They did it. They were my coaches on the floor. They were my Michael Jordans. From the first to the last, that's them.
Wow. Coach, if I didn't know better, something else I wanted to ask you. Did you ever meet Nolan Richardson?
Yes, I did. Yes.
Well, y'all similar to me. Now, say I'm way off base with this one, but when I saw you coaching for the first time, and just the way the team played and the defensive pressure that you applied,
right,
that's who I thought about immediately.
Right, and Coach Richardson, he was great at it. He brought about the 40 minutes of hell. He's the one that showed that you can get it done on any level. And he was a great guy. And yes, I met him years ago, and I would always see him at the Final Fours. We would always have a word for each other because I admired him. He's one of the guys that laid the groundwork for the rest of us.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we could go on longer. The information and the stories that you could tell from your coaching career and beyond, it is impressive, sir. And as I've always said, my favorite coach, besides the Southern coach, that came into the Elgin Clark Activity Center. You are outstanding, sir.
Hey, thank you for that. And you guys be safe and enjoy, and let's talk next week.
Yes, sir. Same to you. Stay safe. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and appreciate the time as always, Coach Pettaway.
All right. God bless.
All right. That was Coach Van Pettaway, the Coles Brown Show's basketball analyst, just giving us some great perspective on today's show. We're going to take a time out. When I come back, Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network joins me next. You're listening to the Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com.
It's the Open Mic Tele-Network line. Dial 720-721-1558, and instantly at your fingertips, you'll have the latest local news, weather, and sports. Need a word of encouragement? Dial 720-721-1558. The Open Mic Tele-Network line features weekly prayer, verse of the week, and local ministries at your fingertips. Everything you need on demand. Dial 720-721-1558. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No internet? No problem. No Wi-Fi? No problem. No app? No problem. All you need to do is dial 720-721-1558 to listen now.
Be the one with courage to fight child abuse.
All Texans must find the courage to fight child abuse.
Learn the signs and symptoms and report suspected abuse to appropriate authorities.
Learn and know these warning signs.
A child who undergoes changes in behavior, appetite, or routine.
Watch for unexplained injuries, a change in academic performance, or loss of interest by a child in regular activities.
Trust your instincts. If you suspect something, do something.
If you believe a child is in an abusive situation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-252-5400.
Be the one with courage. To find your local Children's Advocacy Center, visit onewithcourage.org.
On behalf of children, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As a dad, you'll probably spend years teaching your son how to hit a baseball, how to throw a tight spiral and hit a receiver, how to spring off a diving board and hit the water, how to hit a 1-wood and a 9-iron, how to hit the bullseye, how to hit the strike zone, hit a jump shot, hit the open man, hit the hockey net, and maybe the most challenging of all, how to hit the books. But the question is this: how much time will you spend teaching him what not to hit? Teach your son early and often that all violence against women is wrong. For tips on what to say, visit endabuse.org. Brought to you by the Family Violence Prevention Fund, the Waite Institute for Violence Prevention, the Ad Council, and this station.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Speaker.com. Boy, I'm going to have to take a drink of water. Thanks, Jack. Spivey record 58 and 127. My goodness, I feel a little faint here. Oh. Well, let me talk to Charles Edmond of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Charles, good morning to you.
Good morning. How you doing? I hope you got this sip that water by you.
Yeah, I do. Sometimes long-term memory, you put things in your long-term memory and it's back in there and something has to jog it loose to come back to the forefront, to the short-term memory. Woo! But I was talking to Coach Pettaway, and I asked him his point on a contract, rolling over extensions versus incentives and bonuses, and he had an interesting perspective on that. And I kind of brought up the situation with Southern. You remember Coach Spivey, and after the first year, he had a very good first year, and Southern administrators, rolled over his contract, gave him an extension, and the rest is history. Didn't do well after that. One solid year. And that was the first year. And so from a coach's perspective, and they have a family, they want longevity, versus incentives. So all that to say, there are coaches in the conference that they'll get extensions based on what they've done. There are going to be coaches that when they get hired, they're going to have a nice 4-year contract. That discussion has come up again. But anyway, good morning to you, Charles. How are you doing?
I'm staying safe, just trying to stay sanitized and just doing the best that I can with what I got.
Yeah. Woo. That's a good thing. Still the unknown, but the big news in the conference, Mo Williams, the head men's basketball coach now at Alabama State. Your initial thoughts on it?
I think it's a splashy hire. I mean, we all know what Mo Williams has done as a player, and his coaching resume. It's unknown a little bit in terms of what he could do as a head coach. But Alabama State's known for going out there and at times getting a big name like a Melendez to coach baseball, who's had some success. So, you get a big name like Mo Williams out there, and we'll see what happens. I mean, you got to play it out on the court. I mean, obviously, I think they have a decent signee that they're going to commit. So he's got something maybe to build off of, and these NBA coaches. We had one in Larry Smith who played in the NBA, was an assistant coach in the NBA. Unfortunately, things didn't quite go the way that we thought there, but good guy. And we'll see what happens at Bama State. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing how it's going to turn out.
It will be interesting. Once again, good luck. Best wishes to Mo Williams, being named head men's basketball coach. Some of the language you're hearing, name recognition, you got that. Resume, unknown. We'll see. Depends on what kind of staff he puts around himself. A Jackson, Mississippi native. He should be able to go and into that hotbed of recruiting in the Jackson, Mississippi area for basketball wise and get good players. What kind of staff he'll have. So some unknowns, but one thing about it, time will tell. In a few years, we can look back and it'll be judged on the wins and losses and other aspects. But some people are shocked, some people are not about the hire.
Well, Mo Williams has been on our campus, actually. When Luther Riley was the head coach, he had his camp, and for a couple of years, he had Mo Williams be the featured guy at his camp. So he's been on our campus, and it's going to heat up the recruiting wars in the state of Mississippi with our new coach, Coach Bussey, and Wayne Brent getting the Jackson talent. Lindsey Hunter is Valley. And now you have Mo Williams over at Bama State. Should be some interesting recruiting battles in the state of Mississippi.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. If I'm every coach in the conference, I'm getting into that area. Louisiana, Jackson, Mississippi, the state, Alabama. It's going to be a interesting race in the next couple of years on the men's side. Charles, also continued conversation about, as we switch subjects here, about sporting events and what will happen. Will they be able to pull it off? I know a lot of people are still hoping that it happens, but still uncertainty and unknowns. Have you heard anything from colleagues, or do you still just monitor the people of influence and the news channels to see the latest on this pandemic?
Well, the safest thing we can say, Carlos, is I don't know. And I talked with our athletic director about it, and he said he doesn't know. It's a ever flowing situation. It could go left one day, right the next. I'll make this quick comparison. What we're dealing with now to the recession back in 2008. there are a couple of big banks that were about to go under, and the government bailed them out. And the reason was because they're too big to fail. College football, college athletics is too big to fail. So there's going to be a way to figure this thing out. I think there's, some conferences have already out on the West Coast have pretty much said that they're not going to bring students back in the fall. That means no football. Will they have a domino effect for the Power Five? I doubt it. I do think we're going to have football. Do I think it's going to be when it's supposed to be on the schedule? If I were a betting man, I would say no. But we're going to know in the next few weeks because from what I'm hearing, that within the next 30 days, if not sooner than that, there's going to be a plan in place to play football whatever time because it's just too big, too many moving pieces, too much money to be made, too much money to lose. And I just think that right now, in these next 30 days, you're going to know exactly how college football is going to fit in everybody's lives come the fall, if not later.
And do you believe, if in light of the information that's been provided, some known, some unknown, as far as this virus, would you be comfortable going in the stadium? And what is the possibility of having these events without fans? Because that's a part of the economic piece as well. Season tickets. I saw something where Coach Banks has sent out a letter saying they will update season ticket holders about the situation because it's still unknown. Are you safe? Do you feel safe enough to go to a sporting event? And why I say this, Charles, let me have a minute here. When I do travel out, I have the precautions, the mask on and everything, and I don't go out as much as I don't go out unless it's just, to get medicine or something like that. But what I can see, the state of Louisiana now, and each state is perhaps different for their measures that they have taken to kind of ease back into opening things up on a limited basis. But people I think they've gotten lax just that quickly. We hear about a second wave coming. Are you comfortable? The people that you've talked to, colleagues, whatever, family members, are they comfortable going out to a sporting event?
The people that I've talked to, no. As far as I'm concerned, if there's social distancing, if people are spread out, yes, I would be. And what I'm hearing as far as the Power Five, they're talking about requiring masks at some of these places. We'll see how that develops. But in terms of spreading people out, not packed in together, 35,000 at Mumford or whatever it is, 60,000 at Memorial, I think those days are gone for now. I think you're going to have to spread people out and see how that goes. If that happens, Carlos, I would feel a little better, with the space and the social distancing. But, otherwise I would not. As far as what I do every day, as far as being in a press box, I'm going to bring all the precautions of, all the wipes and wipe everything down, 6 feet apart between myself and my partner up in our booth. And we just kind of go from there. But as the way it is right now, I would not be. But if they spread everybody out in the social distancing, if everyone plays by the rules, I would feel more comfortable with that. And I think that's probably the way it's going to be. 35,000 at Mumford, try 15,000 and spread everybody out.
No, I don't think it'll be 15,000. Well, I don't know. I can only speak. I can control my actions. But it's going to take away from the atmosphere. And if I got to think about certain things to do, and then after the game's over, then it's back to everyday life. I asked you the question, you gave me the answer. I still wouldn't feel comfortable, even if they decide in September of October that they're going to get it done. They're going to have a season. I still wouldn't be comfortable, even as part of the media. I don't know. I just wouldn't feel comfortable. But that's just me.
Yeah, I think if everyone, wear the mask and the hand washing, you talk about the risk and reward, the financial part of it. I mean, another piece that'll probably come up that we could talk about at some point later on, the cost. I mean, if you're talking about having more people to enforce the social distancing, and you're talking about having more sanitizers, more paper towels, more cleaning, more disinfecting at concession stands, all of that's more people that you're going to have, more staff you're going to have on deck, and that there's a cost to that as well. So it's I think those are the decisions that these schools are having to make in terms of doing this thing. You've got to have the games for the Power Five because of the TV money, but then at the same time you're going to lose a little bit if you're going to spread people out. You're not going to have as many people in these stadiums. So there's a risk and reward there to play or not to play. Again, I think there's going to be college football, but it's going to have a totally different look. The NCAA president has said he can't see games played without students, but then he comes back and says, as far as when we're going to start, that's up to the schools to decide. That's up to the conferences. So that still has to be determined. There's still a lot of moving pieces, but in terms of my biggest concern, like I said, if it's business as usual in terms of 30,000 people, I would have somewhat of an issue. But if they spread everybody out, and I think it can be done if it's planned properly, and we all take the proper precautions, for me, I would be okay with that. But business as usual, no. And I don't think it's going to be that way. I think no conference in the country is going to take that risk, that liability if someone gets sick. And that's the other piece that has to, be worked out. If someone gets sick, who's responsible? Who's liable?
Well,
all of that has to be worked out.
Yeah, I had a guest that was coming on, but unfortunate situation, I had to reschedule. But that is, and this is an attorney, and that's what I'm going to have him to discuss on the pros and cons and liability exposure. General liability insurance. University has insurance to cover athletes, but does this COVID-19, does it come under that insurance, or would you have to have extra insurance or a different type of insurance? It's just so many questions and unknowns. And if I could, a colleague said this: they are talking about requiring masks, while the same people they're talking are marching with Confederate and Nazi flags, talking about they will not wear masks. And you've seen on the news and opening up in Colorado, in the restaurant, I know a lot of you seen it. And you saw what the people look like. When they were in that restaurant, it was just like the pandemic had never happened. Those are some of the things you have to think about. So, are you comfortable enough to go to an event if they agree to have a sporting event?
I'll say this, as far as that's concerned, I mean, people have their opinions, and I think we all, kind of disagree with that. But our SWAC fans, I can almost guarantee you, if they're required to wear a mask to go into Mumford Stadium or Spinks or Veterans Memorial, I guarantee you, if they want SWAC football and that's the way it has to be, if that's the new normal, I guarantee you they will gladly comply with that. Just my guess, that's my opinion. I think that's a small inconvenience because people are just so desperate or are thirsty for football. And I think if that's what it takes, I think people will do it.
Well, I have a kind of a different perspective. Why not just call it off and put a stop to it and then come back when it's safer, when we have more information, when we have a better handle on everything? And can I see players at practice with masks on up under their helmets? Water bottles can't be shared, going to the restroom at practice one at a time. What if someone has develops an emergency and has to go to the bathroom quickly? Someone's already in. I don't know. this is unprecedented times, and I think we should take a step back. And now may be the time to just seriously think about, hey, let's just put a halt to this and come back in another year. And financially, I know football and money, it drives everything. That's why I've been talking to the different ADs. And most of them say they've got a plan either way. But I'm out of time. Charles, appreciate the time as always. And have a great weekend. We'll talk next week. I want to thank all of our guests. Coach Van Pettaway. I'm going to reschedule Channing Warning for next week. I want to thank Dr. Prince and all of you who have listened and sent me messages. I appreciate you. Make sure you tune in next Saturday at 10 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show. Always heard exclusively right here on the Open Mic Broadcast Network and Spreaker.com. Until that time, as always, peace and God bless.